Hey everybody, Brandy here doing my comments from my Stampin' Studio today. Today is another day for Christmas cards. I have been frantically trying to get all of my cards done. I have to make about 50 this year, and I think I'm about halfway there between making cards and creating videos and uploading content to my blog. It's been a very busy Christmas season. But I hope this video finds you well rested and getting ready for the Christmas season, doing all your shopping, getting your cards done. Today I just want to make it a little bit easier for you and give you another design that you can copy and create for yourself. I welcome people to copy my designs. That's the reason why I make these videos, is so you can either be inspired to create your own or simply just copy mine and send them on their way. All right, today's card is using the Beautiful Baubles stamp set, which is available in the holiday catalog, and it will not be available after December 31st. So if you're interested in this set, you better get it while you can. And the other thing that I'm using today is the Swirls and Curls texture embossing folder, and I believe this is also going to go away the end of this month as well. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, that this stamp set is now on our clearance and they've reduced the price, so it's a really great time to get that. Here's the card. This is a card that I made for my monthly stamp class that I teach here in my home for my local gals. Shout out. All right, and here it is. I really loved this card because I got to practice a lot of new techniques that I wasn't familiar with. I'm using the Stampin Blends to color that Christmas ornament, and I also used it to color the little embellishment that's right there and the embellishments that are right there. I'm going to show you how to do that. All right, everyone say hi to Bridgie. That's my little doggy back there. All right, so stick around because at the end of the video, I've got a favor to ask of you all. So I hope that you all stick around and help me out. And then I also will be sharing some information regarding an upcoming swap. I know you're not going to want to miss it. All right, let me get the camera turned around. Okay. All right, we've got a couple of things that we need to do to get our card ready. I have already pre-cut all of the, oh my goodness. My dogs are playing back here. They don't understand the concept of, shh, mommy's recording a video. Anyway, so I've already pre-cut all of the paper. We are using just regular cardstock for most of the card, except for the bulb. I'm actually using the watercolor paper to do that. I think it brings a little bit more of a vibrant color out using the watercolor. So everything else is standard. And I've got a PDF on my blog, and I will link down below where you can find this, where you can get the dimensions of everything here, and that way you don't have to sit there and figure all that out. So I've done that already for you. All right, so the first thing I got to do is I have to stamp the ball, and I'm going to emboss it with silver embossing powder. I forgot one thing here. Okay, need my coffee filter. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to find a block to put this on. And this looks too small. Yeah, that one's going to work. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and emboss it. Very easy to do. And I want to get my piercing mat out. What I do with my piercing mat. I know it's sitting here. Oh, here it is. Okay. All right. For those of you who have watched my videos before, you know I never have everything I need, even though I have planned so well to get this video going. All right. So let me just kind of put this in your view. We're going to be stamping with a photopolymer stamp set, which it requires a little bit of cushion to be able to get a clear image. And so I want to make sure that I'm using like my piercing mat or some sort of foam underneath, so therefore I can get a clear image. All right, so what we're going to use today is essentially all basic cardstock. The only thing that's going to be different is the cardstock that I use for the bulb itself is going to be our watercolor paper. I find that the Stampin Blends give a little bit more of a vibrant color on the watercolor paper. So I'm going to actually emboss this image onto watercolor paper with my silver embossing powder. All right, and so that's the first thing we need to do. I've got my stamp already mounted on my stamping block. I have my paper, on my piercing mat right here. I find that when you stamp photopolymer stamps with something, you know, cushioning the background, it gives you a little bit better, clearer. It gives you a clearer image. All right, so I'm using Versamark. I'm going to get that well stamped up because that watercolor paper is liable to soak it up, and I want to make sure that I have enough ink on here. All right, before I stamp it, I want to use my embossing buddy. It's basically an anti-static, I don't guess what you call this little powder bag, and that allows me to remove any kind of material, any kind of grit or oils or anything from my fingers, because it'll allow the Versamark to adhere, and when the embossing powder gets poured over it, then you're not you're reducing the likelihood of having that embossing powder end up in places you don't want it. Now, it's not terribly concerning for me if it gets on the outside of the edges, but because this is a delicate detailed design, I really want to make sure that I get that clear image. So that's why I use that embossing buddy. All right, so I'm going to lay it right on top. I'm going to press down. There we go. You can barely see, you probably can't see it on the video, but you can barely see the design. I'm going to bring my coffee filter over, and I've got my container here of my silver embossing powder. I got my little spoon here. All right, so I'm just going to hold the paper over. I'm going to spoon it up. I'm just going to lightly put that powder over it. Just make sure I get it completely covered. You can give it a little tap on the back, and that looks really nice. All right, so let me put that spoon out of the way, put that embossing powder out of the way, move that. All right, I'm going to close up my Versamark so I don't heat dry that completely. So I'm done with that for now. And then I'm going to bring my tool in, my heating tool. Once you see the color start to shine, the powder, that's when it's setting up. And then you just kind of slowly move the heating tool around the design until you've gotten the entire design set. Let me just give it one more go just to make sure. All right, that looks good. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to color it. And I'm going to pull out the Stampin Blends markers that we're going to use. Let me pull in the example here. So this top section, we're going to use our Mango Melody. I'm using the light and the darker color. This next section, I'm using Real Red. And I've got that here. Yes, so that's Cherry Cobbler. Here we go. I've got the Real Red. I've got the light and the dark. The next section is the Rich Razzleberry, which I kind of go back between using the Rich Razzleberry or the Blackberry Bliss. These colors are kind of similar, and so, you know, you can kind of take your pick on that. The next section is the Cherry Cobbler, and the I've got the light and the dark. After that, I've got the Call Me Clover color, and then I've got the Night of Navy. Now, I will say, you can go crazy. You can use any colors you want. You can do the entire color or the entire bulb one color, or you can, you know, mix it up. The one thing I wanted to make sure is that I at least had one section of the bulb in the Call Me Clover color, because that's the color of cardstock that I use for my base. And then I also wanted to make sure that I had at least one section in the Cherry Cobbler, because that's the matte in the base, the matte on the card. So that's the reason why I used that. All right, so I actually need to get some glasses on because this is a little bit of a detailed job, and I need my readers to be able to see that clearly. And I hope that I'll be able to do this. Let me see if I can get this camera to go down. Hold on one second. Okay, so I'm going to do a couple of these sections in slow-mo, or not slow-mo, but regular motion. And then I'm going to kind of speed up the camera so you don't have to sit here and watch me do it. It does take a little time, and especially if you want to be very detailed with it. So I'm going to do the green section, or the blue section, and then the green section, just to kind of give you an idea of what I did. When I am doing my Stampin' Blends, I usually typically like to work with the lighter color first. I tend to, you know, it's easier to put color down than it is to take it up. Although we do have a color lifter that you can lift up some of the colors, I just find it's a lot easier if you kind of try to not put down as much ink as you can if you press hard, and using the lighter end of that spectrum just makes it a lot easier. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the larger end of, or the bigger brush of the Stampin' Blend, because this is a pretty big area. And I'm going to be very light with my touch. I'm not going to press down very hard, because the more you press down, the more you're going to lay the ink down. Now when I work on this card and I want to do shading, I'm going to make sure that I work in sections. I don't want to color the entire color or the entire bulb at once, because I want to work in sections while the ink is still wet. Now, I also want to let you know that as you lay the ink down, it's going to look much darker than it is when it actually dries. Everyone has probably experienced that magic while painting a room, and once you get that wet paint on it, then you say, oh my God, what have I done? So it's kind of the similar thing. So I'm just sort of and you don't have to be really precise when you're first laying that down, because you're probably going to lay more ink down. So I'm going to close that cap, and always want to make sure that your caps are completely closed so they don't dry out. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use the blue, and I'm going to pretend that there's light coming from the top of the bulb, and so all the bottom section... Oh, my dogs are so high-strung. So the bottom of the bulb is where I'm going to see the shadow. So that's where the part that I want to make it a little bit darker. So I'm going to try to do a very thin line, as thin as I can get it, along this edge. Again, not pressing down too hard. All right. So that just kind of gives it a little bit of depth down there. Now, if you're looking at that, you're like, well, that you kind of look like you see a line there. Well, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to go back with the light color, and I'm going to try to blend that in. And how I do that is I kind of use this flicking motion. try to pull that color up. There's different techniques on blending, and depending on the size of the space that you have, you know, you might want to use a different technique, but this, what I find, kind of works. Now what I'll probably do is I'll leave this as it is now. I may go back and put a little bit more dark down there and blend it in again. But for now, let's move on to the green. All right, again, I'm going to use my green marker, the light color. This is the Call Me Clover. I'm just going to fill in the space and just barely touch. Can almost push the ink around with the tip of your marker. But you want to avoid pressing down too hard, because that kind of controls the flow, basically. Okay. All right, oops, missed a section right there. All right. Okay, now I'm going to use the dark color. Let's see if you can see that. And turn it that way a little bit. Yeah. All right, so I'm going to use the dark color, and I'm going to do that little line down the edge. And these kind of have little valleys. So, oops. I got a little too far out on that one, but that's okay. I'm going to blend it in. Put a little dip in that section. And to be honest with you, this is a little bit wider than I probably would have wanted to do, but we're going to make it work. All right. See how I've done that? I'm going to use the flick method and pull that color up. It's showing a little bit more than I want it to, so I'm just kind of rub it in a little bit and see if I can get it to blend a little bit better. All right, there, I think that looks much better. Let's see if I can turn it so you can see it a little bit better. Now there's a little bit of green that has spilled over. I'm going to use my color lifter to kind of push that back. There, and now it's gotten a little bit lighter, and when I put that red over it, you're not going to be able to see it. All right. Okay, we can go back on that blue, put a little bit darker on the edge again. Use the light color to push it up. There we go. All right. I'm going to show you some that I've already done. And as when I finished it, I went over it with some Wink Stella. I don't know if you can see that glimmer right there. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and finish, I'm coloring this up. I'm gonna fast forward the video so you just sort of watch me do it. All right, so now I have the bulb done. Next thing I want to do is I want to, you know what, before I get into that, let me raise the camera up just a little bit. Okay, I've got kind of a makeshift system here, so it's not real sophisticated. I apologize for that. All right, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use my embossing folder to create the swirly pattern on the cherry cobbler page, or cherry cobbler frame mat. And I want to point out to you, I didn't ever notice this before, and I'll have to look at my other Stampin' Up! Embossing folders to see if they have that, but it looks like they've got this little line here that you can line your paper up to make sure that you're getting a straight image. So I'm going to use that. I'm going to not pull the embossing big shot over, but I'll be right back, okay? All right. I love this embossing folder. It's so cute. And I think you could use either side and it would look great. This is the side I'm going to use. All right, so the next thing I want to do is I want to actually glue the mat down to my base. And I try to adhere things when they are as flat as possible. So for example, I would not adhere this raised ornament onto the paper until I have at least those two mats together, because they're easier to adhere to. So I can go ahead and do this to my card base. Use my bone folder to brandish that. And because this is kind of a textured, you know, raised card, I'm going to use either my tear and tape or my fast fuse. I happen to have some fast fuse left, so I'm going to go ahead and take... Did you hear that? I don't know what that was. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and use up my Fast Fuse. I still have some refills left on that. And Fast Fuse, I think, is stronger than Snail. And considering that we're going to have that ornament on there and some other things, I really want to make sure that this panel is going to stay. So I'm going to use the heavier tape. So you could either use this or you could use your tear and tape if you have any of that. Just want to make sure you use an adhesive that is going to be strong enough to hold all of that weight. All right, so I want to make sure that I get this centered. And don't forget, I've got all of the dimensions and all of the products that I'm going to use for this card on my blog. And I'll put a link down below for you all to get that, so you don't have to worry about that. All right, so the next piece is going to be this card right here. But before I glue it down, I need to stamp. And so I'm going to pull back my paper piercer. Let me move some of these markers out of the way. And this piece, let's see if that's the right piece. Yes. I am going to stamp off the page, off the cardstock, in order to create that line that sort of goes off the page. And I want to kind of not guess, but I want to place my ornament there to figure out where I want it on the page. And I'm going to place it right about there. I think that looks good, and it'll give me room for my sentiment to go down below. And I'll just give you a heads up. It is about 4 o'clock, 4:30 my time, and that's the time the dogs eat. So Zinni may be talking to me while I'm doing the rest of this video. All right, so I've got the line all inked up with the black memento. I'm going to place it right here. I'm going to move my ornament. I'm just gonna stamp down. Oh my word. Zinni, that's a no-no. No. Mom was videoing. Stop. All right. He will definitely continue to talk to us. I promise you. All right. And so again, I'm going to put my little ornament there. And then I'm going to ink up my bow. I wish I could tie bows like that. All right. And so I want it down a little bit. So I'm going to put it right there and sort of intersect the bow with the string. Ta-da! And then that ornament's going to go there, and then my sentiment's going to go down there. All right. Now, this is a flat piece of paper before I build up on it, so I'm going to go ahead and glue that down. And again, I'm going to use my Fast Fuse. Again, you can use your tear and tape. Just make sure you use a strong adhesive because of that texture of that matte sheet that we placed there. All right, make sure we're opening up the card in the right direction. And then I'm going to center this. All right. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is I have been experimenting with craft foam to use instead of my dimensionals on items that are kind of, you know, big. And I like this because when you use our dimensionals, you kind of put a spot here and a spot here and a spot here, and that's okay. But if you want to make sure that you've got kind of a strong support throughout the image, I'm finding that the craft foam is the way to go. And what I did was I just die cut a circle that's a little bit smaller than my ornament. So I'm going to go do that in the Big Shot, and then I'll be right back. All right, and as you can see, my Big Shot cut that craft foam like it was butter. And the thickness of this craft foam is the same thickness as our dimensionals. So I'll post a link down below where you can get some of this craft foam for yourself. If you have bigger pieces that you want covered and have more of a solid base. I still use my dimensionals, but I use those for smaller pieces. All right, now I'm going to use my tear and tape to adhere the craft foam to my die, I'm just going to tear a couple pieces off. Oh, looks like I'm out. Okay, well, I guess I'm going to use my fast fuse, and let's hope this works, because I haven't done it before. Yeah, I think so. All right, so we'll go ahead and put that down. The other thing you can do, if you don't have tear and tape, is you can use the Tombow mono glue. And you would just need it to let it dry. And I would probably set a clear block over it just to kind of smoosh it down and make sure it gets down. All right, so I've got the 2 little pieces of tear and tape on the back here. Let's see if I can get that off. And I'm just gonna set that right there. That's nice. All right, so I'm gonna set this to the side. The next thing I want to do is to stamp our sentiment. And I've got 2 pieces of paper here. I'm gonna stamp it on the white, and I'm using the Call Me Clover ink pad. And I'm going to use the Deck the Halls. And I've got it so measured, if you use my measurements, is that I'm going to make sure, I want to stamp this over to the right side as best as possible, because it will just naturally fit your triple banner punch if you do that. If you don't, you may want to, if you're kind of afraid that you're not going to be able to do that, you might want to cut your paper a little bit longer, so then you've got a little wiggle room. All right, I'll bring my paper back over here and make sure if I accidentally make a mistake and stamp off, I don't stamp on my paper, my piercing mat, which as you can see I've done. All right, so let me just set that down right there. Perfect. All right, let me close this up. Now, let's see, I'm going to use my triple banner punch. And I'm going to turn it upside down. I'm going to take my paper, I'm going to put it right in there. And I just want to make sure that I get that center, that point in the center of the paper. And if it's not exact, no big deal. Won't be able to see it from an airplane, but just want to try. Boy, I'm having a problem today. My fingers. Okay. Here we go. And then voila. It's beautiful. All right, I'm going to do the same thing with the green. Call Me Clover green. It's an in color this year. It's a really nice Christmas color. Okay, let's see here. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to close this Memento Black before I get it on me. I don't need that anymore. All right, so I'm going to use a glue dot, and I want to, you know, kind of adhere it, not, you know, straight. You know, I want to make it kind of look like that. So I'm going to put glue dots on the back of my white. If I were to put it on the green, I may be limited. If I put it in the wrong spot, then you may see it. So I always try to put the glue dots on the back of the image that's on top. All right, so I'm going to just kind of lay it like so. All right. Good job. All right, now I'm going to use some Wink of Stella to tie in that sparkly that I've got on the Christmas ornament. And on this, I'm just going to go along the green paper. And I'm going to go along the white, but I'm going to try to avoid the ink because I don't want it to run. I'm just kind of giving little taps here and there just to add a little bit of sparkle. right, so I'm gonna let that dry for a little bit. Now, what I'm gonna do is I'm going to color some of the enamel. I got my little pearls here, and let's see, on this one I believe I used this size right here. This is kind of that larger size. I could use one of these, but I think I'm going to use the larger size. And on this one I colored that one using the dark Call Me Clover Stampin' Blend. So this is what I really love about these markers, is that you can use them to, you know, create the embellishments in the colors that you want if you don't have them in the colors that you need. All right, and then I did these three little dots down here with the dark cherry cobbler. So I'm going to color three. Oops. I like the bigger brush. It's a little bit softer and easier to go around, so I'm going to use this. Just get all around the sides. All right, make sure you guys can see that. Yes, okay. All right, I'm going to let that dry. And now, this is probably dry enough. I'm going to go ahead and adhere the dimensional dots to them. And let's see here. Can use the mini size. Actually, I think the bigger size would probably work better. Let me see here. Yeah, we'll use the big size. There we go. All right. And actually, before I did that, I should have adhered these, but that's all right. All right, I'm going to use my reverse tweezers here to kind of pick these up and place them where I want them. I will link in the blog where you can pick up some reverse tweezers. Stampin' Up does not currently sell any, but I've got a couple of resources where you can find one for your own. And I love these. These are very, very handy. Let's see, did I get the other side? I missed a little side on there. Yeah, make sure I get that. Let's see, while I'm waiting for that to dry, I'll go ahead and put the green one on. And I just put it right there in the center of that bow. Okay, and then let's finish that red dot. Put them right there. Okay, perfect. All right, and we'll put the sentiment on, and then we will be done. Do it cockeyed there. That looks great. Awesome. Now on my other finished card, I actually did an inside, but you're welcome to do that as well. I took my block and kind of stamped it up a little bit and off the page, so it kind of gives you that very flat cut off look there, which I think is kind of a nice design element. And then I put the sentiment in there. So you guys will know how to do that. Don't have to show you that. But I think our card is done. Yay. All right. Let me put the camera up. Well, there you have it. Another Christmas card design to help you and inspire you to create your own Christmas cards. I know that my friends and family love it when I send them one of my Christmas cards that I've handmade. They know how much time I take in my cards and how much pride I have in them. And I just love giving something to somebody that makes them smile. All right, so here's a couple things that I need from you all. I have been working on this project, and it's actually a course that I want to create. And I feel like if I put it out there, I'm actually going to do it. So Here is my debut announcement, and I'm asking for your help. What I would like for you all to do is either comment down below or go to my website and shoot me an email. I want to know all of the techniques that either you yourself have experienced when it comes to card making or something that you want to learn. What I want to do is that eventually I want to create a course that allows people to go in and be able to learn step by step different techniques on how to make cards. So I need your help because I don't know all of the techniques that are out there, and I will be really excited to learn what you're doing or something that you want to learn how to do. So if you don't mind, please do comment down below with a technique that you really like or you really want to learn, and I will see if I can incorporate that in the course that I'm building. It's my goal next year in 2019 to have a course for you all to be able to go in and learn all of these techniques in all one place. All right. I hope this video has been helpful for you. Also, before I forget, we've got our thank you card swap that's coming up in January. Cards are due to me by January 11th. I'm going to post a link down below on where you can find the details to that. Basically, you create 5 cards, all of the same design. This theme this time is thank you. I'm trying to encourage you all to create thank you cards for those that you have had a wonderful experience with over the Christmas holidays, whether it's gift exchange or just time exchange. I think it's a really nice idea to send out handwritten, handmade thank you cards. So I've got the details for that down below. And as always, if you liked this video, please do give me a thumbs up. And if you really want to be alerted every time I upload a new video, please do hit the bell and the subscribe button, and you'll get notified every time I upload a video. All right, there you have it. Life happens, I comment, stamp me some love. Take care, have a great day, bye-bye.